The Puukko, humble, unassuming, and utterly reliable. Carried by hunters, carpenters, farmers, and even warriors, this small Finnish blade is the cornerstone of a national identity. But how did a simple utility knife become a cultural symbol, a battlefield companion, and an enduring work of art? Today on The Knife Life, we're diving deep into the history, evolution, and legacy of the Finnish Puukko. Let's get into it. What exactly defines a Puukko? At first glance, it's a study in simplicity and practicality. The Puukko is a single-edged fixed-blade knife, traditionally featuring a hidden tang and a blade length between 70 and 100 millimeters, or 2.7 to 4 inches. It excels in all-purpose tasks: wood carving, food preparation, hunting, bushcraft, and can serve as a last-ditch weapon in combat. Despite its simplicity, the Puukko is built on a fairly refined geometry. The bevels are typically set at an angle between 15 and 21 degrees. This edge is acute enough to make it very sharp, but large enough to maintain enough strength in the blade and create a wedging action when cutting material such as wood. Instead of putting a secondary bevel on the edge of the knife for the final sharpening, like mini knives today, Puukko traditionally sharpened the entire bevel of the knife on a whetstone to create the edge in what's called a scandi grind. The blade profile varies based upon region, use, time period, and maker. You'll see everything from straight backs to clip points, upswept blades, or dropped spines. And cross sections can range between wedge-shaped, diamond-shaped, saber, or chisel ground. The handles, typically made from birch or master birch, are often shaped into round oval or double oval profiles, giving them a comfortable, intuitive feel in the hand. The grip of the knife is actually likely where the Puukko gets its name from. The word Puukko likely stems from the Finnish word puu, meaning wood, either in reference to its typical handle material or its historic role in woodworking. That's not to say that Puukko grips are only made from wood. Metal ferrules and butt caps are common decorative additions, and other materials such as bone, antler, and bronze have been used for the grips. During the Viking Age, the forebearers of the Puukko were already in use across Fennoscandia. In Finland, small utility knives served daily needs for farming, hunting, and craft, much as they did for the Norse Vikings. Archaeological evidence suggests that the knives of the Puukko type have deep roots. Unfortunately, very few Puukko progenitor blades have survived, and accurate insights into their nature are uncommon. It's not until the Viking era that the use of materials such as bronze and stag allowed more blades to survive and give us a better picture of the Puukko's history. By the Viking era, roughly 800 to 1050 AD, Finnish knives had become more utilitarian in size and shape. Blades were typically short and single-pointed, with a simple drop point. This general blade geometry was simple to manufacture and performed well. Men's Puukko were typically longer than that of women's blades. Often these blades would be buried with their owners alongside swords and other larger blades, indicating at least a degree of martial usage. Puukko with blades longer than 10 centimeters have only been found in graves that contain no other blades, suggesting that the Puukko was not only that individual's side knife, but his most important weapon. Puukko were typically simple in construction, with only wood for the grip. Unfortunately, this has led to few examples surviving from this time period. Those that have survived, or pieces thereof, are often of more elaborate construction, utilizing bone, antler, and/or bronze in the handle construction. Often the reason for these bronze fittings was the inclusion of rings or reinforcement for holes for things like chains or cord. Furthermore, the use of bronze sheaths also contributed to the survival of these knives. Analysis of surviving wood grips show that master birch was the favored wood for Puukko grips. A close second was the birch bark grip. Literally made from tree bark, birch bark grips are constructed in a similar fashion to stag leather grips. Washers made from birch bark are layered on top of each other and then shaped and polished. These two grips continue to be the preferred handle materials even in modern times. By the time of the Crusades in the 11th and 12th centuries, Puukkos were incorporating Roman-inspired artistic flourishes. Acanthus leaf motifs began to appear on bronze fittings, and Christian motifs also made an appearance. Rings at the butt of the knife remained commonplace. Women's knives, as in the Viking era, were usually more ornate than their larger male counterparts. Two Puukko from the Crusaders period have survived in good condition to this day. These are the Inari and Tukala Puukko. Both of these knives are examples of more expensive and ornate Puukko. Bronze sheaths were used for both, and the wood handles have survived due to bronze fittings covering large portions or the entirety of the grip. Bronze-clad grips are a recurring theme for Puukko that has survived for so long. Moving through the rest of the medieval period, a variety of blade shapes began to emerge. Whereas the drop point knife had been dominant, straight-backed blades began to take the forefront, foreshadowing the common modern Puukko. Blades with downward angled backs and clip points also have been found in respectable numbers at the Turku medieval excavation site. Interestingly, despite the onset of the European Renaissance, the form of the Puukko remained largely unchanged. While much of Europe embraced intricate swords and ornamental daggers, these trends seem to have had little impact on the Finnish Puukko. One change was the introduction of swept point blades, a geometry that became common throughout Europe in the 16th century. Other changes were a transition away from a plain wedge cross-section with the bevel running all the way to the spine. Shortened bevels with flats on the blade became more common, as well as flats angling inwards towards the spine, creating a diamond cross-section. A more obvious development was the symmetrical sheath. These striking sheaths were mainly produced in the city of Vöyri. The 1700s and the early decades of the 1800s marked a flourishing and diversification of Puukko making in Finland. In this pre-industrial period, most knives were still made by individual village smiths or small workshops, but there was a greater exchange of ideas and techniques than before, leading to distinct regional styles and significant advancements in materials and construction. Some historians refer to the late 18th and 19th centuries as a golden age of the Puukko, as the knife became not only a tool, but a symbol of regional pride and craftsmanship. Kauhava, in particular, rose to prominence during the mid-1800s. Much of this boom was due to the resettlement of the Ostrobothnia region. The Russian occupation of Finland from 1714 to 1721 had led to a mass exodus from the region. When farmers began to return, a high demand for tools resulted, including the ever-useful Puukko. All of Ostrobothnia became known for its Puukko due to the wide distribution of smiths, but Kauhava quickly became the industrial heart of Finnish knife making. By the end of the century, over 90% of Puukkos were produced there. The arrival of the railroad into Kauhava brought the Industrial Revolution into the region. Now, not only were new materials such as ebonite and celluloid now available, the production and export of Puukko became a very profitable business. Production of Puukko began to turn towards mass production. As a result, most traditional smiths were driven out of business, unfortunately, although a few managed to survive. During this period of industrialization, a couple of changes took place. Ricassos, previously unseen on the Puukko, began to appear. Fuller grooves also began to make an appearance. These were for cosmetics and had no practical function on such small knives. Blades slimmed down during this time, and the Puukko started to reach ostentatious levels for a common working knife. Other more odd features were introduced as well. Pommels with animal heads emerged as some of the most ornate Puukkos available, for example. But while many of these blades were more intricate than the simple working man's Puukko, financial prosperity permitted even the common farmer to procure a nicer, fancier knife for himself. Demand for the Puukko in all of its forms continued to grow until the onset of World War II. While the blade was popular among troops in the field, Finland was saddled with large war reparations to the Soviet Union. Much of the regional wealth which had driven the production and demand for the Puukko dried up. Additional blows soon followed. Cheap Mora knives began to flood the market, undermining native cutlers who were unable to match the Swedish prices. Only companies that engaged in exports, especially to the US, were able to survive. Iisaaki Järvenpää was the only Puukko company to survive in Kauhava past the war and through these difficulties. Throughout the post-war years, the Puukko fought a losing battle against its decline, but in 1988, a pivotal moment arrived, the publication of the the big book on Puukko. The following year, the Finnish Puukko Society was founded, sparking a national resurgence in appreciation for traditional craftsmanship. Enthusiasts, collectors, and smiths alike rallied around the blade that had once defined Finnish utility and resilience. Due to these developments, the Puukko has seen a remarkable comeback and continues to be a vibrant part of Finnish heritage. For those looking to dig more into depth into Puukko knives, particularly their regional variants, snag a copy of the Puukko by Anssi Ruusuvuori. I'll have a link in the description to that book. If you enjoyed the video, hit that like button and consider subscribing. Let me know what blades you want to see on the channel in future in the comments below. And as always, keep living the knife life.